Get out!
નમસ્તે હું તમારું સ્વાગત કરું છું.
Buongiorno a tutti e benvenuti. Ciao.
Sat Sri Akal.
Welcome.
Ani Bojo Kinawea.
Welcome.
Welcome.
مرحبا.
Soyez les bienvenus.
Hello, Sat Sri Akal and Jiayano to all.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Привіт. Ласкаво просимо. Welcome.
Hello and welcome.
Tervetuloa.
Welcome.
Namaste and welcome.
Welcome. Welcome.
Bonjour et bienvenue.
Bienvenidos.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Good morning and welcome everyone for our very first virtual International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination event. My name is Laura Vareshan and I'm a sergeant with the Greater Sudbury Police Service. I am one of 3 MCs for this event and I want to welcome you on this wonderful Sunday morning. If you can believe this is the 30th year that the Greater Sudbury Police Service has hosted an event in recognition of the state, it makes me very proud to be a member of an organization that recognizes the importance of coming together with community in making efforts towards the elimination of racial discrimination. We have a wonderful program in store for you today, and without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to my co-MC, Gurpreet Singh, who is a member of our Diversity Advisory Committee, and I'm going to let him take it from here. I'll see you all shortly, and take it away, Gurpreet.
Hi, Laura, and thank you. My name is Gurpreet Singh Broka, everyone, and I'm the second MC for today's event. I'm a banker by profession and also a member of the Greater Sudbury Police Service's Diversity Advisory Committee. Today, I want to wish you all, first thing, a very warm welcome, and thank you for joining us today. I will now pass it along to our third MC for today's event, Dev Patel.
Hi everyone. I'm going to be the third MC for today's event. My name is Dev Patel and I'm currently a graduate student studying global health at McMaster University. I'm also the vice chair of the Greater Sudbury Police Service Diversity Advisory Committee. We would like to begin by recognizing that we are gathered here today on the territorial lands of the Robinson-Huron Treaty, cared for since time immemorial by the Anishinaabeg people of Atikameksheng and Anishinaabeg and Wanapate First Nations.
I want to start off by thanking all of you for joining us at today's event. I would also like to take a moment to acknowledge that this event would not have been possible without the hard work and dedication of the Greater Sudbury Police Service's Diversity Advisory Committee members. Events like these do not just happen, especially one that we've never done before. Today's event provides us an opportunity to collectively reaffirm that racism has no place in our community, no place in our hearts, no place in our nation, and no place in our future. We come together as community regardless of the color of our skin, the country we were born in, the language we spoke, the clothes that we wear, or the cultural, religious, or spiritual traditions we observe.
Thank you, Gurpreet. And there is no place in any of our lives for racism or for any form of racial discrimination any longer. This takes us to this year's theme, Breaking Barriers. Each and every one of us can work collectively to break down any and all existing barriers that keep us apart. Although we've come together today on March 21st to celebrate and commemorate the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, let the spirit of this day stay with all of us, each and every one of us, throughout the entire year. Because it's the everyday little things that bring us one step closer to eliminating racial discrimination. Little things like speaking up when you hear offensive or derogatory language, teaching our children to welcome and embrace those that are different than them. My diversity, your diversity, our collective diversity is unique. But it's this collective, unique diversity that makes a strong community. So these everyday little steps towards eliminating racial discrimination creates a place where we feel like we belong. We all feel like that we're welcome. It is a place where we treat one another with dignity and respect. So keep breaking down those barriers and keep doing the little things. I'm going to pass it back to Dee, and he's going to share what the program has in store for you. And thank you, and I'll see you shortly.
As Laura mentioned, this year's theme is breaking barriers. When this event was first created, a social media challenge was shared with the hashtag GSPS Breaking Barriers. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all those that participated in this challenge. Your names have been entered into a draw where you could win one of 3 amazing prizes. The draw will take place at the end of today's event, so stay tuned and good luck. Today, we will be hearing from the Greater Sudbury Police Service Chief, Paul Pedersen, the Diversity Advisory Committee Chair, Navri Kudari, as well as various committee members who will be speaking to us about what diversity means to them, as well as why they joined this committee. Also, we are very excited for you to hear from our keynote speaker, Dr. Elaine Brown Spencer. She will be speaking to all of us about affinity bias. We will also be hearing from Ulu, a Sudbury-based advocacy group who will share with us some of the work that they're doing in the community. Because of COVID, we searched our community for pre-recorded songs, dances, as well as cooking videos so that we can share them with you today. We hope you enjoy what we have collected for you. At the conclusion of today's event, you will have an opportunity to participate in an external survey regarding inclusion and the Greater Sudbury Police Service. Please take some time to complete the survey, as it will provide valuable information to the police service about what people are thinking and feeling towards the Greater Sudbury Police Service and what they can do to be better. So I want to thank you ahead of time for taking this opportunity to participate in this survey.
We have an amazing program set out for all of you today. The event will begin with the singing of our national anthem. I would like to introduce Florence Osawamik. Florence is 14 years old, is an Anishinaabe Medivivin Kwe of the Martin clan. She is originally from Wikmemikong, Manitoulin Island, and now resides on Nogajiwanong territory. She's a water walker and a traditional dancer on the powwow circuit. Since birth, she was surrounded by first-generation language family speakers. It is a great honor for her to open this year's International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination gathering. We have an amazing
Oh, Canada, Mampi and Jebayan, Ninda Kimnon, get your upbeat and dagwag, Ninde nang mashkawan danda, Giwed non zaktoda. Nani Buddha, oh Canada, where when it gonna win dunda? Oh Canada, get your guanan. Nani Buddha, me gweche win dunda. Nani Buddha mi gweche wen dunda.
That was great, wasn't it? Thank you so much, Florence, for opening our event. I will now turn it over to our Greater Sudbury Police Services Chief, Chief Paul Pedersen.
Ani, bonjour, hello, greetings everyone. I'm Paul Pedersen and I'm proud to be your Chief of Police. I am also proud to lead your police service, the Greater Sudbury Police Service. I want to start off by acknowledging a few people. I want to acknowledge Deep Patel. Thank you very much for doing the territory acknowledgement and reminding us that we are all treaty people. I really want to say Chi-miigwech to Florence Asamic for that wonderful rendition of the national anthem in Ojibwe. What a special version that was. I want to thank our MCs this year, Gurpreet Singh, Deep Patel, and Sergeant Laura Vibreshan, each with your own style and flavor. Looking forward to seeing you MC this afternoon's event. And speaking of looking forward to, I'm truly looking forward to the keynote presentation from Dr. Elaine Brown. Thank you so much for sharing your learnings and teachings with us about affinity bias, something we all can stand to learn more about. I want to acknowledge Ulu. Speaking of teaching and learning, here's a group of leaders that are really helping our organization learn about anti-Black racism. And this is training that's going across our organization, and really they're giving our members a peek into what we may not know, but also giving our BIPOC members a voice of control, a voice of empowerment. And I really thank you for doing that for Greater Sudbury Police Service and for our community members. Of course, I want to thank our Diversity Advisory Committee, DAC, not only for your dedication and commitment year-round, but also for building this event. And while COVID may have stopped many things, it hasn't stopped our dedication, hasn't stopped our values, and hasn't stopped you from bringing forward this virtual event that I know is going to be fantastic. And finally, I want to thank all of the community members that are joining us. When we talk about a shared commitment, I know firsthand that there is nothing we can do if not do it together. And whether you're joining us this afternoon or you're joining us some other time virtually, whether you're participating with us in various committees or working with us as partners, you're definitely part of the solution, and we're committed to continuing to work forward with you. This, of course, is the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, and this was created to remind us all of the horrific massacre in Sharpeville in 1960. And while we never want something like that to happen again, we also take this moment to celebrate some of the successes that have happened since then. I can't imagine in 1960 that they could have ever imagined that a police service and a diversity advisory council would be partnering today for an event like this. But that being said, the events of this past year have brought forward a stark reminder that there's still a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work to do internationally, a lot of work to do nationally, a lot of work to do locally. And that work can't stop. And we can't sit back and say racism doesn't exist in our community. This year I've listened and I've heard horrific stories of racism in our community, and stories that aren't from the past, stories that are current, stories that quite frankly, many of us couldn't believe exist in 2021, but do. And I talk about leadership often. I talk about that leadership isn't a rank, leadership isn't an organization, it isn't a position, it's an action. And we're committed to taking action with our community to eliminate racial discrimination in all its forms in our community. We have to start off by acknowledging that systemic racism exists. It exists in institutions, it exists in organizations, and it certainly exists in our organization. And we are committed to those working groups that you'll hear more from later that are going to tear down some of those systems that have created barriers to racialized, marginalized, and gender groups getting into our profession and helping change our profession, and we are committed to that change. I want you to know that we welcome the opportunity to continue to work together. We welcome the opportunity to build relationships. We welcome the opportunity to partner. We welcome the opportunity to learn and to grow from that learning. We welcome the opportunity to be your police service, to do the best that we can do to eliminate racial discrimination in all its forms, and to be the police service that you know that you deserve. So in closing, I'll say that quote that I hear so often. We're not where we were, but we're not where we need to be. We're on a journey, and thank you for joining us on this leadership journey. Merci, miigwech, thank you.
Thank you, Chief Paul Patterson. You're always so full of wisdom and have a great way of saying what needs to be said. Now we will hear from our DAC Chair, Navreet Kodari, to speak on behalf of the Greater Sudbury Police Services Diversity Advisory Committee.
Hi, I'd like to welcome you all to the first time ever virtual event for the elimination of racial discrimination put on by Greater Sudbury Police Services Diversity Advisory Committee. Some of you might not know, but the Diversity Advisory Committee has been around in some capacity for over 30 years. Throughout those years, we've done our best to help GSPS address the ever-evolving needs of our community. This year being no exception, we have a wonderful group of people who all bring their own unique talents, abilities, and points of view to not only help us address these ever-evolving needs, but also give voice to the changing demographics that live in the Greater Sudbury area. Those of you who have taken part in our previous events know that we like bringing a unique blend of both entertainment and education. We have amazing speakers lined up for you today, as well as very talented performers. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy your afternoon with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Navreet. It's been a privilege to work with you as the chair on the Diversity Advisory Committee, and I look forward to our continued efforts in helping and providing valuable feedback to the members of the Greater Sudbury Police Services and working as allies in our community. Now, everyone, you will hear from Yasmina and Lisa, who are current members on the Diversity Advisory Committee.
Hola, I'm Yasmina Esteves from Honduras. Today, we will talk about diversity. Diversity means to me having the opportunity to meet people from different parts around the world, to learn about their culture, religion, traditions, clothes, music in one place, Sudbury. All that confirm that we are equal. We love, we laugh, we dream, and we hope in similar ways. I joined the Diversity Advisory Committee more than 2 years ago because somehow my voice represents the voice of my Latino community in Sudbury. Thank you, Greater Sudbury Police, for the opportunity.
Hello everyone, Shalom. My name is Lisa Daliop, and I'm originally from Nigeria, and I currently am an alumni from Laurent University here in Sudbury. Happy International Day for the elimination of racial discrimination, and I'm here to talk about diversity. And basically what diversity means to me is having different representation in the community, be it gender, race, or socioeconomic factors. And diversity is important to me because when diversity thrives in terms of inclusion, it tends to lead to creativity of various ideas and perspectives in the community, as well as fostering productivity, communal living, unity, which is what we want in our community here in Sudbury. I also recently joined the GSPS, which is the Greater Sudbury Police Services DAC Advisory Committee. In order to help change negative narratives about diversity and inclusion, and also make a more inclusive environment here in my community, which is Sudbury. I also hope to achieve this by assisting in various programs that are focused on inclusion, diversity, multiculturalism, and things like that, in order to raise awareness, in my community about this topic. I would love to, get to a point where we would have multicultural events, multicultural festivals, or days where we go and, have a taste of another culture, the way they eat, the kind of foods they eat, the way they dress, the kind of music they listen to, and things like that, and vice versa. And then that way, it would foster peace and unity in the community, and there will be tremendous growth, I believe, because then everybody would embrace each other regardless of our color, regardless of our gender, regardless of our beliefs, regardless of our culture, and all thrive as one human race. Thank you.
Thank you, Yasmina and Lisa, for sharing what diversity means to you and for being on this committee, which will allow us to work together in taking continued steps towards a more inclusive and diverse police service that represents our community. So thank you. It is now my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Elaine Brown Spencer. Dr. Spencer is an educator and equity advisor. She's a graduate from the University of Toronto and holds a PhD in equity studies and education. Dr. Spencer has over 20 years of experience in policy and academia, facilitating discussions on equity, anti-oppression, and race for over 4,000 Canadians across Ontario. Dr. Spencer brings solid insight of missing Canadian history, addressing bias, and anti-racism education. Today, Dr. Spencer will be discussing with us affinity bias. Her work involves building strategies to engage in difficult conversation that leads to sustainable solutions to enhance the workplace culture. Everyone, please welcome Dr. Spencer.
Welcome to today's presentation on uncovering bias. My name is Dr. Elaine Brown Spencer, and I'll be facilitating this discussion with you today. Let's begin. So here you see in front of you a very familiar photo we often use when we're trying to show the unknowns of a particular topic. I use this image of the iceberg right now in terms of to show the roots of uncovering bias and looking at the root of systemic barriers. And many times, many of us who work in the public sectors or wherever it is, oftentimes that it's important that we acknowledge that we all have our own biases in terms of how we approach our world, our jobs, our thinking. And that's what we kind of wanted to spend some time on, is to kind of get Welcome to today's presentation on uncovering bias. My name is Dr. Lane Brown Spencer, and I'll be facilitating this discussion with you today. Let's begin. So here you see in front of you a very familiar photo we often use when we're trying to show the unknowns of a particular topic. I use this image of the iceberg right now in terms of to show the roots of uncovering bias and looking at the root of systemic barriers. And many times, many of us who work in the public sectors or wherever it is, oftentimes that it's important that we acknowledge that we all have our own biases in terms of how we approach our world, our jobs, our thinking. And that's what we kind of wanted to spend some time on, is kind of getting at the root of systemic barriers and what bias is, both conscious and unconscious. So what is conscious bias? It's prejudices towards people and groups that are founded upon often inaccurate information. It's comparisons we make of people towards people and groups, founded on attitudes and feelings that give rise to negative judgments of people, results in unfair treatment or disadvantage of people groups. And when I speak of prejudice, I'm speaking of the attitudes and feelings that give rise to negative judgments of people. And this is what can lead to discrimination, which is the intended or unintended behaviors that are based on race and age, ethnicity, religion, gender, and so on. There are so many areas where our bias impacts people, and the impacts are that it limits or denies opportunities or access of people. And to kind of continue from that, moving on to unconscious bias are the social stereotypes, right, about certain groups of people that individuals form outside their own conscious awareness. And so unconscious bias really refers to our attitudes, our stereotypes that we have that affects our understandings, affects action, and the decisions that we make in an unconscious way. So this is where we now have to kind of, especially those who are serving the public, have to kind of dig away at, how could this be impacting people that we're serving in our communities? And so we can look at areas such as healthcare. For those who may be following the media, we're in a global pandemic, and we're seeing the disproportional impacts of what the pandemic is doing on certain groups. And when we talk about healthcare, it referring to, the social determinants of health. Health is not just looked at in terms of, doctor and medicine and so forth, but it has much to do with the conditions in the environments, right, that are negatively impacting people, people, how they're born, how they live, they learn, they work, they play, they worship. And this affects a wide range of health, function, quality of life. And why this is so important is because with our biases and our unconscious biases, it could actually impact service delivery for those who may encounter the health system. For an example, we're hearing that for COVID-19, that certain groups, example like the Indigenous communities, the Black communities, are disproportionately being impacted in terms of the numbers, and there's other factors to consider why that is. And so when we look at other institutions like the criminal justice system, I mean, this is no unhidden for so many who are working within this sector of society, that the Indigenous individuals are overrepresented in the Canadian justice system. Stats say that Indigenous youth account for 50% of custody admissions, though they only represent 8% of the Canadian youth population. In 2016-2017, a report came out that showed that Indigenous adults account for 30% of those in the provincial and territorial custody admissions, 27% in the federal custody admissions, and and 27% of the federal in custody population, even though they only represent 4.1%. So these are statistics that become very startling for those who are working in these sectors to say, well, why is that? Like, what is going on? Is it just that certain groups of people are more prone to criminal activity, or absolutely not? There are embedded structures and ways of thinking that influence our laws, our interaction, who's being arrested or not. If we look even in a report in '96, many years ago, the report of the Royal Commission on Aboriginal people that was released, and it was talking about the greatest contributor to the overrepresentation in our laws and our policies have had negative impacts on Indigenous people because of the overrepresentation in the criminal justice system. So I just kind of point that out today, because as we kind of discuss biases, is for us to understand that this is not just kind of specific to people and pathologizing people, but really looking within to say, you know, what really is going on that's creating these like high statistics in these areas. When you look in the Black community, I'm from Toronto, and we have a very staggering stat that says that 40% of children in the child welfare system are Black, right? Even though in terms of the entire country, it's only about 8% of the total Canadian population. So we see there's a lot of disproportionate here. So I'm kind of bringing that out for us to kind of query and kind of think through, you know, what's going on in society that's related to our biases and in the way we think. And how we have to begin to think about policy models or interventions to really kind of deal with that. So when we think about the impacts of bias, it has negative impacts also on recruiting employees, right? Because if we have particular stereotypes, as I gave that definition, and ideas about people, it actually can stop us from recruiting certain people from certain backgrounds. It can lead to poor health outcomes, as I mentioned, the social determinants of health. And many may have even seen some of the videos that people have kind of released into society about their treatment that once they engage in the healthcare system, again, based on how people think, biases of how they're portraying that in terms of, you know, who gets healthcare, how we perceive women who are experiencing pain. There's a lot of research in particular area that, you know, I can't really get into that right now, but really coming from our bias and our stereotypes. And again, as I mentioned, as it's reflected in the criminal justice system. So confronting our bias is really important, that, you know, as we kind of consider this today, is that everyone holds it. You know, no one is exempt. Sometimes we like to say, oh, what's happening over there? I mean, sometimes we've heard our politicians say, oh, that's not in Canada, that's happening somewhere else. But confronting our bias, one of the first steps is to acknowledge that we all hold them. And it's important to know that everyone holds unconscious beliefs about people and social groups. And these biases form our values, our presumptions, the way where we live, even regionally, the way we've been brought up by family, and the way we categorize people, think about people as the other, right? It really brings into how we organize our social world, how we organize our workplaces, and how we interact with people. But so confronting that now, and as a place of just kind of acknowledging that we all share it, is a starting point for us to begin to educate our practitioners, or anyone that is working in any areas of employment that is working with diversity or people who are different, let me just say, than the norm. So how do we look at this, and what are the roots to that, right? I often say that there's an erasure of history that really compounds this way of thinking, right? Uncovering the impacts of the colonial encounter on people groups. Many Canadians don't know that there's a lot of history that's been omitted from the school system. I have been doing a series of training right across Ontario where I'm kind of bringing out a lot of the history that has been lost. For an example, in the Black community, many don't know that there's a 400-year history of Black Canadians in Canada. It's quite fascinating, actually, to know from as early as 1608, from the first Black person that was brought to Canada, where he was used as an interpreter for the Mi'kmaq community, 1600s. And from east to west, we see the presence of Canada. The history of the erasure of slavery. Many people don't know that slavery was here in Canada for what, 200 years. And and the erasure it has much to do with, wow, we have to come to grip that this actually happened here in Canada, right? And so with that erasure, it kind of forms biases of the other, because during slavery here in Canada, this particular group was seen as less than, inferior. You see it coming out in the education system, where they're stereotyped as underachievers and maybe only good for sports, and these formations that really come out in practices. And so history needs to be revived, to reclaim history, the lived experiences of people and what people have experienced in Canada. And so from there we can help formulate, right, all this history and then weave into, well, if this is omitted, maybe this is why I think the way I do, because I don't know the history. And this image here is to show you, this represents 400 years of history from the Black Loyalists, right? Amber Valley, don't know, there's a place in northern Alberta that is the most northern all-Black community in the entire world. I'm sure we've heard of Harriet Tubman and all these things. And I just kind of bring this out because when we know our history, even in terms of the indigenous communities that have been here for thousands of years, and it wasn't explorers, a lot of it was genocide when people came to Canada. So history is so important. And to revive that in order to kind of actually look at, what's been going on in Canada. And, Stephen Lewis said, just as the soothing ball of multiculturalism cannot mask racism, so racism cannot mask its primary target, because often when we don't deal with our unconscious biases, it manifests in forms of racism. Right? And so though we try to mask it to say, wow, we're multicultural, we're inclusive and all these things, but underneath it, there's a primary target, those who we think are less than, or those who we have not been educated on in terms of their value and worth and contributions in Canadian society. So this work today is really about understanding our bias so that we can have success for all. When we encounter people, they come from families, they come from different circumstances, experiences. And so when they come in contact with people who are set up to help them, right, or what have you, the way we think and the way we are going to interact with them has everything to do with, digging away at this so that we can ensure the success for all people, that there's not limitations, that there's not disproportionate realities in society when we interact with them. So, really digging beneath and being intentional, know why the work is being done and for whom, knowing who your service is, like who is on the other end of that, and so being intentional. So this is a very, very quick kind of overview to kind of look at, the biases that we all hold, and then know why are we working and to whom, and then how do we have to kind of adjust maybe the way we practice, building our internal and external support networks like what we're doing here today, right? This conference and building out our knowledge and our resources. We're tapping into it. Hopefully many of us are reading more literature. We're in a very tense time. Some people are calling this time trauma on top of trauma, with the global pandemic and the racial protests that we had last year, that it's not just the urban areas, but all of Canada is being impacted by this. So it's so important for us to tap into the resources that are available to us in order to build our knowledges, right? Because when we understand about history, the fact that slavery may have happened here, the way indigenous communities have been treated, and all of the anti-Asian racism that's going on right now that's being targeting Asian communities. Again, all of these things are coming from a place of bias where we can dig it out to go even deeper, to recognize that discrimination is going on and that how we are here to be part of the solution. And so being intentional should really be paramount as we begin to connect with one another, as we begin to build and bring hope in activism, because it's very trying times right now. And so those who are hearing, all the different speakers and myself, we have to have this hope in activism, and asking yourself, wow, where do I draw hope from to energize my knowledge quest to address the biases? What can I do? As you can see in this image, those helping others crossing over, right? It's that unity, the strength, and wherever you're going to build that from, it's so essential, because this is tough work. Essential to really build that hope and refuel, because when you see that discrimination around you, are you going to be the one to call it out? Are you going to be the one to, be that activist in your workplace or on the front line or maybe in leadership positions and trying to do things different? Why? Because today we're acknowledging that we all hold these biases, prejudice, discrimination often and what's been taught and learned. So acknowledging that is so important, because bias is so embedded in our society to the point of it being normalized. So as we talk about it today, let us understand that many people are suffering. Many people are being taken advantage of because of their differences, because of how they're being treated, right? Which impacts, do they finish their education or not? Are they able to, purchase homes like everyone else? Are they on the poverty line? And are they always, encountering the criminal justice system? But, let's talk about these things and acknowledge it so that we can begin to chart a path forward. We need to enhance our understandings of unconscious bias so that we can develop strategies to assess it, and so that our institutions can better serve people of all backgrounds. And for that, I just leave these few words of you that, let's be part of that solution. Let's look forward. The need to bring training online, like let's have bias training is so important. Building out our understanding of history so that we can connect that with, wow, maybe some of the structures and institutions, maybe we need to kind of think of it a little bit deeper in terms of maybe some of the practices we do in terms of who's being removed from the home to go on to child welfare. Maybe we will have different strategies to address that way. So the way forward, let's consider ways of restoring communities that have been harmed to a place of dignity and respect, and more of a restorative justice paradigm. So, let's be part of the solution. Let's educate, let's, and really begin to have more of a solid understanding of our biases so that we can really promote an inclusive society for all. Thank you very much for listening today. If you need to contact me, the information is there. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Dr. Elaine Brown-Spencer, for sharing that with us today. Hearing you speak gives me continued hope that we are all in this together. We need to continually check our own biases to ensure that we're more understanding of one another. After all, we all deserve to be treated with respect and dignity. Up next, we have three singers, Jordan, Blair, and Tori, who will be performing a song about the Anishinaabe way of life. Jordan composed the song while sitting with his daughter when he first began to sing and put it all together. I know you will enjoy this as much as I do.
Hello, my name is Inspector Mark Burnett. Welcome, soyez les bienvenus. It is my pleasure to join you virtually today to share a few of the very important initiatives the Greater Sudbury Police Service is doing to support and promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. Our internal police reform groups, including the Anti-Racism Reform Group and the Authentic Inclusion Reform Group, have been working to build a greater understanding of the importance and the application of human rights, its strong connections to policing, and its significant role in building trust and confidence. We strive to recognize the positive differences each and every one of us make by embodying the principles of human rights and the values of diversity, equity, and inclusion in our work and day-to-day interactions. Just a few weeks ago, we offered a virtual vicarious trauma workshop for many of our community partners and open to all members of the police service. Vicarious trauma is the emotional residue of exposure from working with people with trauma, stories, and those who become witnesses to pain, fear, and terror that trauma survivors have endured. Cecil Svensson provided clear explanations of post-traumatic stress disorder as well as post-colonial stress disorder and helps us understand how unresolved intergenerational trauma has played a role in First Nations individuals and families. Further, last week, the Sudbury Committee, MMIW G2S Plus, in partnership with the Police Service, facilitated the 3rd annual MMIW&G conference. This time it was held virtually. The 2-day event was an opportunity to highlight supports to the families and community members impacted by missing, murdered Indigenous women and girls. Remembering the families is important to the Greater Sudbury Police Service. We continue our commitment to answer the calls for justice by working together in collaboration in order to meet the needs of the community we serve, and we are so proud to serve. In May of 2021, we are pleased to offer cultural mindfulness training that will be facilitated by George Cucci. Mr. Cucci is a retired police sergeant, an author, a well-respected member of the Red-Tailed Hawk clan, and an accomplished educator. He has a remarkable ability to deliver teachings to police members on social, cultural, and traditional developments of Indigenous people. His insight on history, effects of residential schools, and current issues is very welcomed by all. The conversations make it so apparent that learning is part of a larger journey that helps strengthen the connections within the communities that we serve. Lastly, it is with excitement that I share with you the work of my friends Hadea, Lita, and Kadri at Ulu, and the partnerships they've shaped within the Greater Sudbury Police Service and with our members, specifically members of our BIPOC community here. Led by Sergeant Laura Vavreshin, this group have rolled out anti-Black racism and cultural diversity learning opportunities specific to police. Recognizing that reconciliation cannot be achieved without first addressing the truths, Ulu sets the stage to have those important conversations. Teaching involved topics such as the bias of the badge, privilege, and allyship. Learning about the inequalities that oppress racialized members of our community are opportunities for us as police leaders to work collaboratively in reviewing practices that have created some of the barriers. As mentioned, these are just a few highlights of some of the work taking place here that promotes diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm very fortunate to have had the opportunity to share with you today. I thank you for your ongoing support. Please take a moment at the conclusion of today's event to complete the short survey. Thank you and enjoy your afternoon. Merci et bel après-midi.
Thank you, Inspector Burnett, and thanks for sharing with us some of the wonderful things GSPS has been doing to create a more diverse, inclusive, and equitable organization. Knowing all the work that is being done by all of your staff is a clear indicator that you're all committed to working towards a more aware and inclusive organization. I know that I'm proud of the work that you're doing, and I know this effort will help continue to build a good, lasting relationship with the community you serve. And I have to say, wow, thank you, Jordan, Blair, and Tori, for that amazing song. It was moving and truly inspirational. Now we're going to hear from our other two DAC members who will share what diversity means to them and why are they a part of the Diversity Advisory Committee. So please welcome Kautuk and Carlo.
Hi everyone, my name is Kautuk Patel and I'm from India. Diversity means understanding that each individual is unique and accepting our individual differences within our community. It provides us with a sense of belonging and inclusion. It also offers opportunity to connect with people and help to build balanced community with trust, respect, and understanding across the culture. GSPS Diversity Advisory Committee will help to share cultural awareness and create a broad perspective for our community. It will provide opportunities to strengthen our community by providing necessary resources and equal opportunities for everyone. It will improve self-awareness, including values we learn from people with various backgrounds and experiences. With the Diversity Advisory Committee, I would like to inspire and motivate individuals to serve our local communities and just be there for everyone. I would like to work harder to improve safety and well-being of our community and also create an inclusive culture that fosters productivity, comfortability, and creativity.
Hello, my name is Carlo Tricelli, and I was born in Sudbury, Ontario, Canada. To me, diversity means welcoming individual differences and being open to other people's beliefs and culture. This is important in communities because it allows for people to experience traditions outside of their own, such as learning about new holidays, trying new foods, and participating in cultural events. I joined the Diversity Advisory Committee to promote and support inclusivity in Sudbury and hope to break down barriers and stigma.
Thank you, Kautak and Carlo. Again, I just love hearing from all of you because it fills my heart knowing that there are people that care and they have the same level of passion that I do in believing that if we come together, we can make a difference. So I want to thank you. Now it's my pleasure to introduce you to our next speakers. About 3 years ago, ULU was formed to create a community for people of color in the greater Sudbury area to share experiences and support allyship education. ULU stands for Uluntu, Nginza, and Usawa, and this is derived from African languages. In English, it means humanity, justice, and equity, which is the focus of the group's work. Hadia, Lita, and Kadre are the ULU founders and advocates who believe that reconciliation cannot be achieved without first addressing the truths. And through conversations, ULU educates people about the inequalities that oppress racialized people. So everyone, please welcome ULU.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed.
My name is Hadia Karimian. I'm a master's student at Laurentian University, and I'm also an assistant coach on the Laurentian men's basketball program. A part of my work is to study the experiences of Black and racialized student athletes. Through that work, myself and Kadre Gray and Litet Nanisa, who are both basketball players on the men's program, developed a group called ULU. ULU stands for Uluntu Lungisa Usawa, which means humanity, equity, and justice. When we were developing our group, we thought that those 3 words is what's going to inspire the work that we're going to do in our community. The word Uluntu is a big part of our mission, and it has a story behind it. It's about an anthropologist who went to South Africa. The anthropologist had seen a group of students, and he had put a basket of fruit under a tree. He told the students, whoever gets to the tree fastest will bear all the fruit. Said 1, 2, 3. He said that and he noticed the kids are holding hands and they're all running towards the tree together, one step after another. They all got to the tree at the same time. They celebrated, they were happy. The anthropologist asked, how come none of you ran ahead of the other ones? And the students turned around and said, I wouldn't be able to enjoy the fruit if I knew that my friends were suffering. The anthropologist thought that that was really profound, and so do we in ULU. It's a big part of our mission, that really we're one human race, humanity. That's what's most important. In our work, there are 3 components. The first component is the youth mentorship piece. A part of that program is to empower young people to stand up and speak out for what they know is wrong. It's also about teaching them about their real Black histories and to embrace their Black culture. The second part of our program is allyship training. We partner with organizations that like us to come in to present on anti-Black racism. We really enjoy doing that part of the work because we find that in the way we facilitate, we really do bring communities together. We create a brave space where people can talk about their experiences, whether they're Black or not. Through that dialogue, we're able to come to common ground. And it ends up being much more powerful than we ever anticipated to be because we're creating a space where people could really talk about the things that they're told most of their life not to talk about. The third part of what we do is consultation. We work with organizations who want to revamp their policies so that they can implement anti-oppressive, anti-racism into their policies to protect their membership. Our hope for ULU is really just bringing the whole community together. After all, we're one human race. So let's fight the hate with loving one another. And in order for us to do that, we need to learn about each other. If you're interested in hearing more about the work ULU does, check out our website at uluntu.ca.
Hi there, my name is Kadre Gray. I'm a co-founder of ULU. I was born in Toronto, and my experience of allyship not being shown was in the city of Sudbury. In my first couple of months of being in the city of Sudbury, Hedy and I, we went to the New Sudbury Mall. In our time there, I went to Lids. She went off to her store to do her own thing, and I went through Lids to the external, but I want to mention right before I walked into the store, there was the manager who made eye contact with me, and a number of ladies, I believe 4, who were at the corner of the store, and we just kind of all made eye contact, just noticing people, and I walked through the external of the store right before I decided to leave. Didn't find anything I liked, so walked about maybe 10 or 15 feet outside of the store, and that's when I felt somebody jump on my back. I turned around. It was the manager who had jumped on my back and ripped the hat off my head, and was accusing me at this time of stealing the hat. So I looked at her and I said, "Well, ma'am, that's my hat. Can you please return it?" At this time, she just started to yell, saying thanks for my hat back, walked back into the store, and that's when I felt really disempowered, because there was 4 ladies who were in the store who knew the truth, who saw this incident happen, and they didn't speak up for me. And I needed them in that moment to talk for me, to stand up for me, and to demonstrate what allyship is. Instead, what happened is I walked back into the store very conscious of who I am. I am a young black man in society, and what the stereotypes behind me are. And so that I was so careful in how I was speaking, because mall security showed up, police showed up. I may be in a situation where I'm fearing for my life, although I'm innocent from this act. So at this time, I called Hedy because she was somebody that I came to the mall with, and she knew that hat was mine. She came over, and she explained to the lady that this is an act of racism. Just because he's a young black man doesn't mean that he stole the hat. And being in the city of Sudbury, where there aren't many young black men like myself who are 6'1" here, I'm a part of the Laurentian men's basketball team. That is many times the narrative. So I ended up getting my hat back, but in this situation, it was an act of where allyship wasn't demonstrated, because the people who should have been my allies, who were in the corner of that store, who should have spoke up for me, didn't. Thank you.
My name is Litan Nanisa. I was born and raised in South Africa, and I'm a co-founder of ULU. So in my experience of allyship was, it happened 2 years ago when I was working at the golf course in Sudbury. So in my role at the workplace, I was a server, so I had to provide people with menus, and I had to provide them with the service in which they needed. So as a gentleman approached me, and I asked him, "Hey sir, can I help you with anything?" He looked at me in the eye, and then he proceeded to walk away. And in my mind, I thought maybe he did not hear what I was asking him, so I would just wait until he settles down, then I'll go to him and ask him the same question. It wasn't until he reached over to my coworker who was standing a couple of feet away from me and said, "I don't like these people." And my coworker was outraged from that statement and decided to tell him, "Hey, we're not going to serve you today. We don't tolerate your behavior. Please leave the building." So the gentleman became offended and said to my coworker, "You don't understand. He's kind of assaulted me when I was working in the mines." And my coworker responded, "It's not him. And you can't paint him with the same brush you paint everybody else." And the customer proceeded and left the building. In that particular moment, I felt empowered because my coworker used his privilege and his position in the workplace and stood up for what he knew was right against what he knew was wrong. And when I look at the power structure in my workplace, my coworker had been working there for over 20 years, and I've only been working there for a couple of months. So I experienced allyship in that particular moment because my coworker stood up as an ally because he used his position and his privilege to stand up for me when I felt powerless.
Oh, freedom. Oh. freedom. Oh, freedom over me.
Thank you, Hedia, Kadre, and Lita, for all your amazing work in bringing education and awareness to our community. It is through efforts like these that we know community members are committed to bringing positive change by working together. Up next, we have Lobna and Kyla from our Diversity Advisory Committee, followed by a resource list for newcomers that was put together based on the experiences and knowledge of the Diversity Advisory Committee. This resource list is for newcomers that are looking to get into contact with organizations and community partners that provide culturally sensitive help. However, this list is by no means exhaustive and represents what is available in our community. If you know or are part of an organization that is looking to share their resources that can help newcomers, please reach out to Sergeant Laura W. at any time, and she'll be happy to hear from you. Once the slideshow has concluded, you will be entertained by Karen Chen's Chinese dance group. Please enjoy the slideshow and the dance. Thank you.
The reason why I decided to join the Diversity Advisory Committee within the GSPS is because I believe it's important for all members of the community to feel embraced and welcomed. Sudbury is becoming more and more diverse. That's largely in part due to the fact that Toronto and its surrounding cities have become so unaffordable to live in. I'm hoping to engage with and learn from community members about the barriers and the roadblocks that they may have faced when trying to obtain a better life. It is in my hope that in doing so, we can accomplish the development of better practices in the pursuit of a more integrated community.
Hello, my name is Lubna, and I'm originally from Alexandria, Egypt. I moved to Canada at the age of 1, where I've been living ever since, and I like to call Sudbury home. And part of my background is the reason why diversity is so important to me. And if I were to define diversity, it's all about respecting and actually celebrating each other's differences. And because diversity is so important to me, I'm on the GSPS Diversity Advisory Committee, where my goal is to work with other people to help make Sudbury a more inclusive place for everyone.
press on the live.
Hi everyone, we're now live from our police headquarters in downtown Sudbury. What a beautiful and elegant dance. Well done, Chen's Chinese Dance Group. And thank you to our DAC members for putting the resource guide together for everyone. As you know, this is not an exhaustive list of what is available in our great city, but what is familiar and known to the members of our DAC committee. And that's who created this PowerPoint, so thank you. If you would like to share your organization's information or want to connect with me, please reach out to me at any time. Again, my name is Laura Vavreshin. I'd be happy to help you and add it on to our resource list. At this time, I want to thank Kayla and Lobna for sharing with all of us. We have such amazing members that sit on our Diversity Advisory Committee. Thank you. And I want to continue this heartfelt thank you to Kayla, who was able to help present this event to all of us virtually on this fabulous Sunday morning. Very proud shout out to Marymount Academy secondary student Grace Weston for helping collect, edit, and format our videos for today's event. Thank you, Grace. Thank you to Florence Osamic for singing O Canada. Thank you to Jordan, Blair, and Tori for sharing your voices with us today. Thank you to Chief Pedersen, DAC Chair Navreet Kadari, and all of our DAC members that took the time to send all of these special messages to share with all of us. Special thanks to Dr. Elaine Brown Spencer and Ulu. It is through your work that we as a community can continue to break down barriers. It is the everyday little things that add up to create a more inclusive, welcoming, and respectful place to live. A place free from prejudice, racism, discrimination, and injustice. I look forward to working together as we continue to promote human rights to build and enhance the foundations of our community in Greater Sudbury. This event is just one of the many ways that our community and the police service is encouraging and supporting our collective commitment in eliminating any form of racial discrimination. All of us are ambassadors in making this happen. One word, one action, and one step at a time. So, as mentioned in the GSPS hashtag Breaking Barriers Challenge and in the post, we have prizes available to be won by those participating in today's event. Not only 3, but we actually have 5 prizes. And we're going to pull the attendance list at the conclusion of this event, and 5 names will be randomly selected, and those 5 winners will be posted in the discussion section of our Facebook GSPS events page, and also instructions with how to retrieve your prizes. But I want to share with you what the 5 prizes are. So the lucky winners will have one of 5 opportunities to be able to get one of these prizes. So the first one available, in no particular order, is a 1 month of basketball lessons with a Sudbury 5 player. And this is a virtual option through the facility. The facility is a basketball development program that was designed to help foster the local talent and interest in the game of basketball in the North. They have partnered with the Sudbury 5 with the initiative to expand the education of the game of basketball and develop excitement and interest in the game. It is during these challenging times that the facility has evolved to provide ball handling programs through Zoom to keep young athletes engaged and active during lockdowns. The private and group sessions range from beginners to advanced. And during lockdowns, the facility also offers a free Zoom ball handling session every Sunday at 11 a.m. to anyone interested. Any additional information on the facility or their sessions, you could go to their website at thefacilitysudbury.com. The second second prize we have for you today is a coffee with an officer and a $25 Twigs gift card. This is your opportunity to go grab a coffee with the card, and then you get 30 minutes virtually with an officer, and you can ask them any of those burning questions that you ever thought you might have to have that one-on-one time to make that connection and learn from one another. The third prize we have available for you is a gift basket with GSPS swag. There is a $25 gift card for Quiznos subs, $25 gift card for Mucho Burrito, and some extra special items that we put together for you. The fourth prize is a $25 gift card for Quiznos subs and a $25 gift card for Mucho Burrito. And the last prize, number 5, is a $25 Quiznos gift card. So those are pretty awesome prizes if you ask me. I also am requesting that you take a minute out of your day to complete a short survey that we've created to collect your feedback on inclusion in the GSPS. You can find the link on our website at www.greatersudburypolice.ca or through our GSPS Facebook account. Simply click on the link. We want to hear from you. because we're listening and your feedback will help shape your police service. If you missed any parts of today's event, you'll be able to log on to the GSPS website and watch the recorded video whenever you have time. And this will be posted on Monday. But don't go anywhere. We have a couple more dances to share with you, and also 2 amazing recipes and cooking demonstrations. The first cooking demonstration will be how to make baba ganoush. This cooking demonstration is brought to you by Shahira Wabi. Shahira is originally from Egypt and has been living in Sudbury since 2007. She volunteers with the Sudbury Muslim Society as the principal of the organization's Weekend Arabic School. Shahira enjoys cooking as a pastime, and her cooking is popular at potlucks and other community events organized by several of the mosques here in Sudbury pre-COVID. This recipe is on my to-do list, and I'm going to do it with my daughters this weekend. The second cooking demonstration and recipe being shared with you is how to make wild rice casserole. And this is shared by Hiawatha's Catering from Wikwemikong on Manitoulin Island. Hiawatha is an executive chef and owner of a premier catering service for Aboriginal cuisine in Ontario. Hiawatha started out working with her mother's catering business, a Somix family tradition, as she has since carried on this legacy through Hiawatha's Catering. She was 3 weeks away from opening her very first restaurant, Hiawatha's Eatery, here in Greater Sudbury when the pandemic was announced last year. Unfortunately, the business was not able to be open due to the pandemic. However, Hiawatha had to be innovative and opened a food truck full-time on Wikwemikong, where she provides community members with a wide variety of food service options for community that was lacking in takeout and food delivery services. Hopefully it won't take long before she can get back to catering conferences, powwows, gatherings, and open her restaurant. In this cooking video, Hiawatha's with her adorable and beautiful Auntie Bev. I have had Hiawatha's cooking in the past, and let me tell you, from one foodie to another, it was fantastic. You will not be disappointed. So from me to you and from the GSPS to you, I want to say thank you, merci, and Meg Rich for coming out to support the Greater Sudbury Police Service very first International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination event virtually. So stay tuned for these exciting dances and cooking videos, and please stand by while I transition the screens. Have a great Sunday, everyone.
Again, welcome. My name is Hiawatha Ozonek. I'm the executive chef and owner of Hiawatha's. Here we are in the food truck. Today we're going to do a little cooking show on wild rice casserole. So I'm again, welcome. My name is Hiawatha Ozonek. I'm the executive chef and owner of Hiawatha's. Here we are in the food truck. Today we're going to do a little cooking show on wild rice casserole. So I'm lucky to have my Aunt Bev with me today, and here she is with the raw wild rice.
Honey, Miss Monday, what this mean? Me Monday now. What women know, man. Jeff Monday in the sun, huh?
All right, so for the wild rice, so what I do when I cook it, I boil it for about 10 minutes hard, and then I strain that water, and then I put fresh water in, and then I reboil it. So we have this been boiling for about 45 minutes now, and it's fully cooked. All the kernels have softly opened up.
Miss Monday, just don't put it in the main. Let's see. In again. Miss Monday now.
So we have all our mise en place here in order. We've chopped all our celery, onions, tomatoes, red peppers, mushrooms. We have some cheese, our salt and pepper, and our fresh chopped herbs. So here we're going to get started now on the cooking process for the casserole.
Honey, Mr. We saw support mama, the celery, strong bush, tomatoes, red pepper, mushrooms, cheese, sitagan, mosagan, smagani, edukun gade kego.
All right, so here we have our butter in the frying pan. Now we're going to start sauteing our vegetables. So I'm going to start putting them in order. The longest it takes to cook. So my celery, my onions. So it won't take long. It's probably about 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes to fry all your favorite vegetables. You can use any of the vegetables you like. These are just the ones that I favorite. But if you like broccoli, cauliflower, feel free to add any of your favorite vegetables to your own casserole.
Cheese the dog cheese. Beware. Yeah.
So what Beth did here was she sauteed her vegetables in the butter for about 15 minutes till they were tender. Then she added in her fully cooked wild rice. She seasoned it up with her favorite dried herbs, salt and pepper, and now we put it in our casserole dish. So now we are going to bake it in our mini oven here for about half hour. We'll get back to you soon. All right, so our wild rice casserole has been in the oven for about 30 minutes now, so we are just waiting any second for it to be done. Okay.
Wow.
Mission. All right, so we're going to enjoy that. We hope you enjoyed our wild rice cooking show. Miigwech and Mission.
drag it up. And press send live and you're ready to talk. Okay. Hi everyone, it's me again. Due to some technical difficulties, we will not be able to share the baba ganoush recipe. However, we will have it downloaded for you on the recorded event that'll be available tomorrow on our GSPS website, along with the other dances. So thank you for your understanding. This is brand new for us. The virtual world is ever evolving, and we did our best. We hope you enjoyed the very first virtual International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. Thank you for spending some time with us on this Sunday afternoon. Thank you again. Megwich and merci.